and that we ought to get to the work of getting Americans to work. So I put together a plan with a whole series of points of how we can get America's economy going again. Tea Party people like that. So if the Tea Party is for keeping government small and spending down and helping us create jobs, then, hey, I'm for the Tea Party.
Governor Perry, you missed this at the last debate. At the previous debate, everyone on stage raised their hand to say they would, I want to get this exactly right, not have accepted a debt deal that included $10 in spending cuts for every $1 in tax increases. We've been anxious to get you on the record now that you have jumped into this. Would you take that deal?
I join my fellow participants here. What we should have been looking at is a way to get the spending under control and capping it, cutting it, and getting a balanced budget amendment. When you get a balanced budget amendment in Washington, D.C., you will finally start getting the snake's head cut off. I mean, the fact of the matter is, until you get a balanced budget amendment, I don't care whether Democrats or Republicans are going to be in control in Washington, D.C., balanced budget amendment, and then the American people can go to sleep at night with a little more comfort that they're going to wake up and not be broke in the morning.
Did anyone else who had their hand up at that last debate want to amend your comment or vote since then, Congresswoman Bachmann?
Well, what I wanted to say is there's someone else who would join us in that agreement, and that would be Ronald Reagan, because Ronald Reagan made a deal where he took $3 in spending cuts for $1 in tax increases. And in fact, what happened is that there ended up being $3 in tax increases and $1 in tax cuts. That's the problem with Washington, D.C. I've seen it all the time. That's why I've been leading on this issue for the last 5 years and why we can't trust the status quo in Washington, D.C. We have to have a president with a core sense of conviction that's going to fight on these issues and recognize. And so we would welcome the former president to this club.
Governor Huntsman, you've said some interesting things about pledges. Everyone up here has taken a pledge not to raise taxes. Dangerous business to you?
I'd love to get everybody to sign a pledge to take no pledges. I have a pledge to my wife, and I pledge allegiance to my country. But beyond that, no pledges. I think it diminishes the political discussion. I think it jeopardizes your ability to lead once you get there. And I started when I was approached when I first ran for governor in 2004. Someone who wanted to pin me down on taxes. I said, no thanks, I'm not going to sign it. I didn't raise taxes. We had historic tax cuts in our state. So look at somebody's record. That's always a pretty good indicator and barometer of where they're likely to go.
I wanted to go back to your comments on 9/11 to ask kind of an obvious follow-up. Do you think we're safer today?
I think we've lost our confidence as a country. I think we have had our innocence shattered. I think 10 years later, we look at the situation and we say, we have 100,000 troops in Afghanistan. This is not about nation building in Afghanistan. This is about nation building at home. Our core is broken. We are weak. We have got to strengthen ourselves. I say we've got to bring those troops home. In Afghanistan, the reality is it is an asymmetrical counter-terror effort. We need intelligence, we need special forces, and we need some training on the ground. But I think one way to commemorate our 10-year anniversary of 9/11, remembering the 3,000-plus people who died in New York and in Pennsylvania and in Washington, is to say it's time for this country to set a goal for ourselves. We're going to get our core fixed. We're going to do some nation building right here at home.
Time, Governor. Governor Romney, would you agree that there's a crisis of confidence in the United States right now?
Oh, absolutely. People are convinced that we're going to go into another recession. I sure hope we don't. People are worried about whether they can make their bills at the end of the month. A lot of folks have stopped looking for work. People who have jobs are worried they might lose their job. Look, we have a crisis in confidence, in part because we have an absence of leadership. We selected as a president a guy who'd never worked in the private sector, a person who'd never been a leader, who'd never been able to get anything moving. And we said, let's let this guy run the country. And he's just over his head. And right now he's flailing about. We'll see his plan tomorrow. It'll be more like the plans in the past. We need to have an individual lead this country who not only loves America, but has the experience to get us back on track of being competitive globally. That's what I put together. I want to make it very clear. I put together an outline of what it takes to get America back on the right track. It's a whole series of changes that have to occur, from energy policy to tax policy, regulatory policy. It changes our trade policies. We've got to change the way we're structured economically if we want to get people back to work in this country and keep America, as we've always been, this extraordinary job machine. We can be the best place in the world to be in the middle class again, with jobs plentiful for our kids and for each one of us that are looking for those jobs today. I know how to do that, and that's why I'm in this race.
Time, Governor, to John Harris.
Governor Perry, as we approach the 9/11 anniversary, I'd like to stick with national security for a moment. You recently said, quote, "I do not believe that America should fall subject to a foreign policy of military adventurism." Looking back, do you think President George W. Bush was too quick to launch military intervention without thinking through the risks?
I was making a comment about a philosophy. I don't think America needs to be in the business of adventurism. But let me just say something about the President of the United States. And I know he's taken lots of slings and arrows here today. But one thing that I want to say that he did do that I agree with, that he maintained the chase, and we took out a very bad man in the form of bin Laden, and I tip my hat to him. I give more props to those Navy SEALs that did the job. But the other thing that this president has done, he has proven for once and for all that government spending will not create one job. Keynesian policy and Keynesian theory is now done. We'll never have to have that experiment on America again. And I might add that he kept Gitmo open against the will of his base, and I'm glad he did that. Americans safer for it.
Sir, just if I could quickly follow on that. You said you were making a philosophical comment, but it's hard to understand philosophy without understanding specifics. Where are some of the places where you think we've seen military adventure?
As I said, that was a philosophical statement, that Americans don't want to see their young men and women going into foreign countries without a clear reason that American interests are at stake. And they want to see not only a clear entrance, they want to see a clear exit strategy as well. We should never put our young men and women's lives at risk when American interests are not clearly defined by the President of the United States, and that's one of the problems this President is doing today.
Congresswoman Bachmann, on the same theme, you opposed the U.S. intervention in Libya. If President Obama had taken the same view, Gaddafi would in all likelihood still be in power today. To be clear, are you advocating a shift away from the George W. Bush freedom agenda with its emphasis on removing dictators from power and promoting human rights?
Well, I want to say, as devastating as our economy is with the policies of Barack Obama, I think that he has actually weakened us militarily and with the United States presence globally. We have, for many years, maintained global order in the world with our United States military. We have the finest military. But in this last debt ceiling debate, one of the alternatives that came forward that we're going to be looking at with this new super committee of 12 different members of Congress is to see that our military could be hit with a huge reduction in resources. The president has not done what he needs to do to keep the United States safe. If you look at the biggest issue in the Middle East, it's a nuclear Iran. And the president has taken his eyes off that prize. As a matter of fact, what he's done is he said, in fact, to Israel that they need to shrink back to their indefensible 1967 borders. I sit on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. We deal with the nation's classified secrets. And I firmly believe that the President of the United States has weakened us militarily and put us more at risk than at any time.
Congresswoman, time, and thank you. I just want to follow up on that. The Arab Spring is a big, big issue in the world, and the question is, what role does the U.S. have, including militarily, to promote democracy and topple dictators? I didn't hear your answer with respect to Libya.
Well, I believe that it was wrong for the president to go into Libya. Number one, his own Secretary of Defense, Gates, said that there was no American vital interest in Libya. If there is no vital interest, that doesn't even meet the threshold of the first test for military involvement. The other thing is we didn't know who the rebel forces were in Libya. Take a look at where we're at in Libya today. Take a look at the oil revenues. We don't know if they will get in the hands of people who will have designs on radical Islam and the implication of a global caliphate. These are very serious issues, and I think it was wrong for the President of the United States to go into Libya.
Senator Santorum, your reaction to Congresswoman Bachmann's stand on what we're watching take place in Libya right up till tonight?
Well, we're in the Reagan Library, and I'm hearing from at least a couple of people on this panel a very isolationist view of where the Republican Party should be headed about pulling troops out with Governor Huntsman and with Ron Paul. The bottom line is Ronald Reagan was committed to America being a force for good around the world. We were a society that believed in ourselves and believed that we can spread our vision to the rest of the world and make this country a safer country as a result of it. We didn't have missions where we put exit strategies saying this date is when we're going to leave. We didn't say that we are the problem and the cause of the problems that confront us around the world. We are a source for good. We could have been a source for good from the very get-go in Libya. But this president was indecisive and confused from the very beginning. He only went along with the Libyan mission because the United Nations told him to, which is something that Ronald Reagan would have melted in like the old Wicked Witch of the West before he would have allowed that to happen. This is a very important issue for our party. Are we going to stand in the Reagan tradition, or are we going to go the isolationist view that some in this party are advocating?
Time.
Governor Huntsman, sure, I'd like to get to you. I've got a question. Your chief political advisor has been quoted very prominently as describing the Republican Party as, quote, a bunch of cranks, and said your opponents on the stage make a buffet of crazy and inane comments. I'm sure that's insulting to some of these people up here. We're now here face to face. Tell us which one of these people are saying crazy or inane things.
Well, I'm sure you have John Weaver's telephone number. You can go ahead and give him a call.
Okay.
But let me just say...
hang on. Then let's follow up on that, because you speak for yourself. You yourself have said the party is in danger of becoming anti-science. Who on the stage is anti-science?
Listen, when you make comments that fly in the face of what 98 out of 100 climate scientists have said, when you call into question the science of evolution, all I am saying is that in order for the Republican Party to win, we can't run from science. We can't run from mainstream conservative philosophy. We've got to win voters. We've got to do what I did as governor when I was reelected. We reached out and we brought in independents. I got independents. I got conservative Democrats. If we're going to win in 2012, we've got to make sure that we have somebody who can win based upon numbers, the math that will get us there. And by making comments that basically don't reflect the reality of the situation, we turn people off. Number two, we've got to have somebody who can lead. This president was successful in getting elected. He can't lead this country. He can't even lead his own party. I'm here to tell you, I can get elected. I can bring the numbers together to make this successful in 2012, and I can lead based upon where I've been as governor.
Governor Perry, Governor Huntsman was not specific about names, but the two of you do have a difference of opinion about climate change. Just recently in New Hampshire, you said that weekly or even daily, scientists are coming forward to question the idea that human activity is behind climate change. Which scientists have you found most credible on this subject?
Well, I do agree that the science is not settled on this. The idea that we would put Americans' economy at jeopardy based on scientific theory that's not settled yet, to me is nonsense. I mean, and I tell somebody, I said, just because you have a group of scientists that have stood up and said, here is the fact, Galileo got outvoted for a spell. But the fact is, to put America's economic future in jeopardy, asking us to cut back in areas that would have monstrous economic impact on this country is not good economics, and I will suggest to you is not necessarily good science. Find out what the science truly is before you start putting the American economy in jeopardy.
Well, just to follow up quickly, tell us how you've done that. Are there specific scientists or specific theories that you found especially